Probably you can go ahead with your questions, and I'm here to answer all your questions before we close this demo session. Yes, Mr. Surya. So I'm going to keep you on mute. So when you have a question, probably you can unmute yourself. It will add a noise in between if you're unmuting yourself. It will
Okay, done.
disturb us from proceeding with the class.
Yeah, okay, done.
Right. I'm muted you guys. So now let's get started. So most of you might be aware about what we are learning. I mean, the Informatica Power Center already, what is a use and everything. So, but I'll just go through quickly the usage of the ETL tools and how Informatica Power Center works. All that thing will understand. So when we talk about the prerequisites for understanding this training or going through this training. So this training is all about Informatica Power Center developer training, right? So predominantly we'll talk on the developer activities and a little bit of admin activities also will speak, in terms of some of the admin activities which is really needed for an interview purpose. So we're also going through, we'll also go through that. So prerequisite for understanding any ETL tool or Informatica Power Center is that you must have knowledge of, the SQL and RDBMS. So when I talk about RDBMS, any RDBMS, it's not only Oracle or you can even, if you have experience even with the MySQL or with a SQL server, right? SQL server or anything, any RDBMS could be good, So this is basically the prerequisite, you could say, for understanding the any ETL tool or an Informatica Power Center. And the skills that we are going to learn as part of this training is that we're not going to, we'll not go through completely on the SQL side, but we'll just get started with a data warehousing concepts. When I say data warehousing concepts, we need to understand about what is data warehouse and what is data mart and what is staging area and all these simple kind of a concepts you need to understand. And you also need to understand about the architecture of the data warehouse, like how we are going to build the architecture of the project or a data warehouse. So all those things we need to understand. And the second thing is your data modeling concepts. You need to understand about how to design the tables within the data warehouse, or how to design the tables within the staging area, or the ODS that you need to understand. And then we'll talk about the Informatica products, like what are the different Informatica products and what is the use of each of them and where we are going to apply all that. And fourth one is, let's say, we'll talk about the Informatica components, and that is completely your Informatica architecture, how Informatica architecture and its components. And we'll talk about the Informatica development task. Like as a developer, what do you do in Informatica? So that we'll discuss. And Informatica development will consist of almost some 30 use cases, 30 hands-on labs that we are going to discuss. And apart from this, we'll also talk about the shell scripts, little bit of shell scripting, the way how we can call a shell script from the Informatica. So maybe by using one sample shell script, I'm going to call that from Informatica, and both the ways, how to call the Informatica workflow from a shell script and all that we'll understand. And we'll also talk about the scheduling aspects. When you talk about the scheduling, how Informatica workflows can be scheduled, and how can we schedule from a third-party tools. I'll not go in detail about the third-party tools like Autosys, Control-M and all, but how we can schedule that from a cron tab, or how to trigger it from the shell script. That's what we're going to discuss. And the next one is on the performance tuning, right? Performance tuning is about, again, 2 hours we're going to spend and understand the theoretical way of the tuning it. And along with it, within the performance tuning only, we are going to talk about partitioning, right? Partitioning, and you also call it as a push down optimization, what we have. So this is about how we the define what are the skills that we are going to learn. And the duration of this course will eventually go for your maybe the 28 to 30 classes. So that's what it depends upon the questions and the kind of the engagement that you guys are making during the training. So it will go for 30 hours. And in terms of installation and all those things, we will take care of the the installation of client, and you will be accessing the server which is there in our premise, that is a Unix based server. So we'll install Informatica client in your system, right? Informatica client, and then using that Informatica client, you actually access the Informatica server. And along with it, we'll also help you to install the virtual machine. You can install the virtual machine within that. This is a Windows based, right? So Windows based VM. This will comprises of your server as well as a client and the database, everything. Uh, so server and client, and you'll also have Oracle database which is installed in that. Okay, so this is your installation thing that what we're going to take care, right? So these are all the, you could say, the things that we are going to learn. And already you would have received the complete syllabus what we are going to cover. And at the end of this, probably the demo, you can probably ask, what else you would like to learn, and if something is possible, we'll probably include those topics as well as part of a training, right? So to get started, what I do is, basically considering all of you as pretty much new to the data warehousing world, I'll try to give you the example. I'll try to give you the 20 minutes demonstration about what is a data warehouse, where does the ETL comes into picture, and how Informatica Power Center can help you to build a data warehouse. That's what I'm going to explain. And when we get started with the classes, we'll go in deep about the Informatica Power Center and we'll understand about it, right? So to just get started, I want you to understand about, we have a different type of a databases, right? So we have Oracle as database and MySQL, SQL Server, DB2, Teradata. These are all the different RDBMS what we have. These are all the structured database management system. You can store the data in the form of rows and columns. And in order to interact with these databases, you needed a language. That language is nothing but your SQL. So we use SQL to communicate with all these things. Okay, Oracle, SQL Server, DB2, and you have Teradata, MySQL, right? Likewise, Sybase. Likewise, you have a different databases, Netezza. Um, Likewise, you have a different databases, and all these databases store the data in the form of tables, and we use SQL for interacting with all these databases. That is nothing but your structured query language. Now, let's try to understand what is a data warehouse and how we can actually build it and what kind of data that you store. See, the data warehouse is nothing but the collection of data from a different transactional system, collection of data um, from a different transactional systems, and we are storing it in a centralized place for analyzing it purpose, for analysis, right? So we're going to collect the data from a different transactional system, store it in a centralized database. And why do we need a data warehouse? This is for analyzing the data. So what are we going to get for analyzing the data? So analysis is nothing but, suppose, let's say, if Amazon is actually building the data warehouse, and if Amazon, the management team wants to understand, they want to understand the profit by each product, right? Or profit by each product category, right? Product profit by each product category, or they might want to understand what is the total sales by region, what are the complete sales by region within the India. So likewise, when you want to understand how you're actually doing in a business, and how your business is running, whether you're running in profits or loss, whether your marketing activities are effective, how many of your sales representatives are really doing a good job, and who is actually the performing par below the, you basically the standard or a benchmark that you have kept. So all these kind of analysis can be done by using a data warehouse. So to do analysis, we are going to collect the different transactional systems data and store it in a centralized place. So in a simple words, data warehouse is nothing but it's a data, it's a warehouse where you're storing the data. That's store it in a centralized place. So now, so when we are talking about the data warehouse where we are storing it in a centralized place, now when I am actually building the data warehouse, I can choose any database as my data warehouse. So I can choose SQL Server as my data warehouse, or I can choose Oracle as my data warehouse, or I can choose DB2 or Teradata, Sybase, Netezza, Greenplum. Any database can be your data warehouse. Any database can be a data warehouse where we are collecting the data from a different transactional systems and storing it in a centralized place. Now the question is, what is a transactional system and what is an OLTP? So whenever I use a term data warehouse or a OLAP, it's one and the same. OLAP stands for a online analytical processing system, a system or an application which we are using for analyzing the data about your business. That is your OLAP system, right? So now when we talk about an OLTP, what do you mean by OLTP? OLTP as abbreviation stands for online transaction processing system, right? On a day-to-day basis, right? Which we use on a day-to-day basis. This is your online transaction processing. So I'll give you an example about online transaction processing system. I'm not talking about the technology here, but technology will understand once we step into the the course. But in this today's demo, so we'll understand what are the different applications that we see on a day-to-day basis, which we call it as a transactional system. So basically, the internet banking system that you actually use for transferring the funds from one account to other account, that you can term it as a transactional system. So transactional system mean where there are a frequent transactions happening. So what do you mean by transaction? So if you're actually adding the data to a table, or if you're modifying a data to the table, or if you're deleting the data from a table, that's said to be a transaction. So, or a group of DML statements are considered as a transactional system or an online transaction. It's a transaction group of DML statements. So in the internet banking system, if ICICI Bank is having about 1 million customers, and 1 million customers, or maybe half of them or a few of them basically can transfer the funds from any time. So that is your transactional system. Or you can talk about an ATM withdrawal where we withdraw the money, deposit the money. So that is said to be a transaction. So here we talked about the transferring the funds. In ATM withdrawal, what's said to be a transaction? I can withdraw the money, or let's call it as ATM, and withdraw the money or deposit of the money. So that is said to be a transaction. Or when you go and visit a bank, basically you go to the teller and then fill the form and deposit it. So they are using an internal application, maybe that core banking application which they are using, that is also said to be a the core banking application which they use, that is also said to be a transactional system. Or when you go and book any product on Amazon.com itself, or a Flipkart, Amazon, eBay, all these are all the transactional systems. So what is a transaction here? When you talk about these Amazon and all. So basically, these are nothing but you're adding a product. Sorry, I mean purchasing the product, right? Or canceling the order. Um, all these, I mean, making the payment using the gateways and everything. So that is said to be a transaction. A transaction is something that which causes a addition, deletion, or a the updation of the data. So that is said to be a transaction. So Amazon.com, you can call it as a transactional system. Or likewise, we have a wide variety of applications we on a day-to-day basis we use, right? Suppose let's say you're even booking an order for food or something, that is said to be a transactional system. So likewise, there are on a day-to-day basis, we use a lot of transactional systems which are specific to which are specific to the particular business or a line of business, right? So these are transactional systems. Now, in an organization, you may be having the different transactional systems in place, which may be used for a different purposes. Okay, let's take one organization one organization as an example and understand what kind of a transactional systems may be available in one system. So let's talk about Amazon itself. Okay, and Amazon, let's say they have a Amazon.com, basically, which takes care of completely selling of their products, right? And any vendor can come and sell their products through the Amazon platform. So they're actually building a platform where any seller can come and register, and then they can sell their products. So each and every day there may be a millions of transactions could happen. That all the millions of transactions will get recorded over here in the Amazon.com application. So this application, I call it as a e-commerce application, right? E-commerce application. Now, for managing the complete Amazon employees, right? So Amazon may be having around, in India itself, you may, I mean, there may be a 1 million employees again, right? So in order to manage their employees, their pay slips, and their incentives, and also their appraisal process, everything, when you want to take care about it, I mean, when you want to do that, so let's say Amazon is using an HRMS application. HRMS is nothing but the human resource management system, so which are like PeopleSoft or SAP Success Factor or Oracle HRMS, or you have different HRMS systems which are to manage the complete human resource part of an organization. So whenever a new payslip is generated, or whenever a new employee is joining or employee is leaving, all those details will be recorded over here in this HRMS system. This is another transactional system. Let's say for managing all their finances, like filing the returns and everything, and interacting with the payment gateways, paying those details to the vendors after their commission and everything. Let's say for all the financial management, they're using another application, let's say Java based application, which they're using. And every time you actually clear a check to the vendor, or refunds, anything that you basically going to capture within this transactional system. Likewise, one is for managing the HRMS and financial management. Likewise, Amazon may be having, maybe let's say for their employees to learn a learning management system, right? To increase their the knowledge and everything. So basically they have one LMS, or let's say SAP LMS, which they're using, and all the employee credit scores, which employee is actually learning the new technology, what percentage of learning they're making over a period. So all these things, there is another transactional system. So likewise, in a bigger organization or a small organization, there may be a multiple transactional systems which they may be using, and each will be for one different purpose. One is for managing the orders, one is for managing their employees, one is managing their employees learning, finances, everything. So in an organization, you may be having multiple transactional systems which will be done. Or let's say for their marketing activities, they're using a Salesforce for managing their marketing activities and reaching out to their customers and everything. So likewise, you have a different transactional systems, and on top of every day there will be a new data which gets added to these transactional systems. And basically we can't, since the data is distributed across the multiple transactional systems, we can't analyze on top of these systems and understand how you're doing. So instead, what a data warehouse actually suggests is that you integrate the data from all these transactional systems into a one centralized database or a distributed area for the analyzing the data. So the process of integrating the data from the different transactional systems what you have within your organization into a one centralized database, right? In one centralized database, that is called as your data warehouse. So the process of sorry, integrating this data is called as your ETL process. So when you talk about a ETL talks about your extraction, right? And you talk about your transformation of the data, right? Your transformation of the data, and then load. Extraction is nothing but reading the data from all these transactional system. If these are a relational database management system, we use SQL for reading the data. I mean, ETL tool will use SQL for reading the data. And if it is maybe the if you have to read it through the web service, ETL will use a web service for reading the data. So extraction is nothing but reading the data from your transactional systems. Transformation, we can't just read this all the data and then dump it into the data warehouse. Rather, we transform it according to our analysis purpose. We'll transform the data within the ETL server memory, and then load is nothing but you're inserting or updating the data. So data warehouse is again the database. So your data will be captured in the form of a tables only. So maybe I have a different tables like dim underscore product, dim underscore customer, and let's say you have a fact underscore sales. Likewise, you have you'll have a different tables which we'll design as a developer, and then we load the data into that. So once we load the, see here, what is the purpose of ETL? The purpose of ETL is to integrate the data from a different transactional systems into a one centralized database, that is your data warehouse. Now we have integrated the data into data warehouse, but now the question is what is the way to analyze it? How are we going to analyze? Okay, we'll come back to that. So when we talk about the ETL, there are different ETL tools that we have within the with the market. So basically you have Informatica Power Center is one ETL tool, and you have a SSIS, SQL Server Integration Service. You have Data Stage, you have ODI, you have bots, business objects data services, and you have Pentaho, and then Jasper also has a ETL. Likewise, there are different ETL tools which we have, and which helps you to integrate the data from any type of a transactional system into a data warehouse. Now once the data is loaded, now your business users have to analyze the data. How are they going to analyze the data? The tools which will help you to analyze the data, those tools are called as a business intelligence tools. So what is the purpose of these tools? These tools will read the data and represent the business information in the form of reports and bar graphs and all that, right? Reports, bar graphs with respect to that. So this is basically on how we represent the data. So the purpose of BI tools is to extract the data, right? Purpose of BI tools is to extract the data and represent this information in the form of the bar graphs, pie charts, and all that. So when I want to understand the share of each region sales, then I could actually represent it in a pie chart. Or when I want to know about the yearly growth of the business, then I could represent in a bar graph. So your BI tools are intelligent enough to format the data according to the user request. If they want to see in a bar graph, it will show in a bar graph. If they want to see in a pie chart, it will show in a pie chart. Likewise, basically BI tools will help them to analyze the data. So instead of using Excels and all those things, they use a BI tool. So these BI tools will help them to export the data in the form of Excel, a PPT, PDF, or in the form of an image if you want to capture. Likewise, you can do it. So the BI tools helps to analyze the data, and ETL tools will help you to integrate the data. So what are the different BI tools? You have Oracle Business Intelligence Enterprise Edition, you have Cognos, and you have SSRS, you have Business Objects. Likewise, again, different BI tools, like you talk about Tableau, ClickView, um, whatnot. So all these are different BI tools which are there, and in an organization they could use anything. So when you talk about the complete data warehousing project, it will have a ETL as well as a BI. Both together is called as a your DWBI, or a data warehousing business intelligence project. So DWBI is your combination of your ETL plus BI. One of the ETL tool could be used, and one of the reporting tool also can be used for building it. So this is a purpose of your ETL. So Informatica Power Center is one of the ETL tool which can help you to build the data warehouse. See, these ETL tools are not only used for building the data warehouse, and these ETL tools are also used in some cases about the data migration projects, right? So what do you mean by data migration? Okay, let me give you a simple example. So suppose, let's say you're using a Siebel application or a Siebel CRM, which is to manage your marketing activities and tracking your leads, contacts, and accounts and opportunities and everything. So you're basically using a Siebel CRM. Nowadays, when you talk about a Siebel CRM, Oracle has stopped releasing the next versions, and some of the latest features which are available in the other version, other CRM tools, it is not available, and most of them are really migrating it from the Siebel CRM to the let's say Salesforce CRM. Now, assume that Amazon is using the Siebel CRM for their marketing activities so far, but now they wanted to migrate it onto the new CRM platform, which is a leader again in the CRM world. So they wanted to migrate from this. See, the reason why they need to migrate, all your legacy data and your customer data, everything is present in the Siebel CRM. Now I need to migrate this data from you know uh, from your Siebel to the Salesforce. So here I can use Informatica Power Center, right? I can use Informatica Power Center. I mean to say I can use any ETL tool and migrate the data. So this is your data migration project. So ETL tools are basically applicable, right? So ETL tools are applicable. One is for implementing the data warehouse and or a data mart, and another is for a migration activities to move the data from one legacy system to other new application. Or in some cases, if you want to process the data from your XML files which you have into the relational database, you could use it. Or if you want to process the data from a flat files into a flat file, or a flat file to an XML file, your ETL tools are much flexible enough to handle any type of a source as a reader and any type of a source as a writer. So that's how these ETL tools are used. And in this course, we are going to talk about only how Informatica Power Center, how can you create ETL programs within the Informatica Power Center, and how you can build the data warehouse. This is what we are going to understand. So as I said, your complete skills will be covered, and this is the simple introduction about what is ETL and how ETL is actually used, and we will focus more on the Informatica Power Center. And when we get started with the classes, we'll go deeper in the in understanding about the technology and the architecture and everything. But at this moment, I'm not really focusing on complete Informatica Power Center itself, but this is more like a generic thing and what is an Informatica Power Center to understand, right? So that's it I would like to cover for a demo, and I would like to understand what questions you guys have so that I can answer one by one. Okay, so I've got a question from Bibu, right? So as a new players have come up like a Talent and Pentaho, what is the market scope of Informatica Power Center nowadays in near future? Okay, see, new players have come, but when you see like Pentaho and then the Talent and all, they are more used within the big data integrations and all that, but they're not very powerful in your actual structured data integration. Informatica Power Center also has come up with a product called as an Informatica Power Center Big Data Edition, which actually helps you to integrate the data from your unstructured data systems, right? So basically, it has a separate product called as an Informatica Power Center Big Data Edition, which can help you to integrate the data. So, but when you talk about the scope of these, it's still Informatica is a leader. When you see compared to all the other new products which have come, compared to all the other, the all the other ETL tools, Informatica is still the leader. So we can even, but the scope, in terms of job scope and all, compared to other ETL tools, Informatica Power Center still, um, you know, is a leader. They have a major market stake, you could say. So we can even refer to Gartner Chart. Um, this is your 2017 Gartner Chart, and you could see what will be the market of other players. Maybe Informatica is here, followed by Data Stage, and Oracle is very way back, and SAP is nothing but your SAP BODS. And basically, when you talk about your talent or all that, so I mean, it's not even considered in the Gartner Chart, but yeah, they are more used in the unstructured. Okay, talent is here. Still, it's a long way to go for a talent. And Pentaho and all, Pentaho is just a niche player here, right? So scope for next 3 or 5 years, still your analysis and everything will take place continuously. So you'll have a market for Informatica as well, right? Any other questions? You guys are good? So you can unmute yourself and then go ahead with the question. Right. So I hope you guys have got the syllabus copy and everything. Please go through that and understand, and let us know. We can take it forward from there. So if you guys are good, probably yes, please. Sri, go ahead.
Like, do you explain about the concepts of this XML transformation, SQL
Yes.
and normalizer, everything? Like,
Normalizer will cover. SQL transformation is
yeah,
not covered, but for that we will help you with a. It's already there in the hands-on guide. You can use
okay.
that and you know practice it. Normalizer is covered, and XML
No, but
parser,
why
XML, everything.
can't we cover SQL transformation?
What is it?
I mean, why it can't be covered?
No, that's what we defined it as a syllabus. That is more like an advanced thing.
Yeah,
So we kept as this is a 30-hour class. You know, so
okay.
that's why other advanced transformation which are not much used, those we are actually providing it as a hands-on guide. In a hands-on guide, you'll have a complete details about how to build that XML. I mean, sorry, SQL transformation. But XML it is part of that. How to read the data from an XML. So in this only you're
Mm,
going to understand XML parser, XML generator, XML source qualifier, everything.
okay. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Any other questions from anyone? So you can talk to Dhirendra to touch base on the syllabus, right? So you can talk to him and he will be able to help you out. Right. So if you guys are good, probably we'll stop it, and you can talk to Dhirendra, and we'll get started with the classes. Thank you. Yes. Go ahead, Surya, if you have a question. Yes, Surya, if you have a question, go ahead, please.
Actually, I'm from non-IT background totally.
Mm-hmm.
So I was learning Oracle. So it's very easy for me to learn, or it's difficult to learn Informatica. It takes time.
See, if you understand the basic SQL concepts, Informatica will be the easier one. So you need to know that SQL concepts, like
Yeah,
how to write the queries, how to read the data from the tables, and different other concepts,
yeah, yeah,
DDL concepts like index, all these. If you understand, then it is easy to learn. It's not a tough
yeah,
tool.
yeah. Okay, okay. Thank you.
All right then. So if you guys are good, probably we'll stop it for now, and we'll meet you with the regular classes. Thank you. I'm closing the meeting.
Thank you.